Good morning. Today, 22nd July 2024, we are going to discuss articles of The Hindu. First article here, it focuses on female employment to counter unemployment. According to Lokniti CSDS pre-poll survey, the difficulty in getting jobs and inflation were the two major issues that played a huge role in the results of recent Lok Sabha election 2024. The India Economic Report published by Institute of Human Development and ILO International Labour Organization illustrated the rise in unemployment rate from 2% in 2000 to 5.8% in 2019. Though unemployment reduced somewhat to 4.1% in 2022, it was high 7.5%. The labor force participation also fell from 61 to 49%. However, it recorded in midway. So all these facts point out the need for employment. If appropriate strategies are taken, there is a greater opportunity, especially for female, in employment generation in rural areas. Employment may be gendered towards women, but generating employment for women makes it very tricky. They carried out one study in Bhuj region of Gujarat in that women were more interested in engaging traditional employment activities from home, such as bandhani, embroidery, beading, rather than other opportunities in non-form casual labor. Flexible work. What were the reasons? Flexible work and possibility of working from home were the two major reasons for preferring additional occupations despite their low income. Study also found 30% of women were stuck to traditional occupations due to unavailability of other options. The opportunity to develop one's own enterprise difficult due to limited access to capital and binding social norms. Agar if women want to go outside and then work means they have to face a lot of dominant business male community, and then they have to have capital for the work, and then there are many social norms, so they have to satisfy those norms. It is very difficult for them. However, if we collectivize all women under self-help groups, that would generate a huge employment opportunity for them, and then it can provide self-employment opportunities, and traditional employment can be benefited under these self-help groups. For example, this Kutch Mahila Vikas Sangathan KMVS, a local non-profit organization in working in that Kutch region, and they acquired new skills. The federations linked women directly to market for better returns. Why this traditional occupations has been carried out by women? Because they conform to the local gender norms. These occupations emerged from dominant choice of women. Women want two things. They want to manage both household activities and then earning. That could be possible only by working with traditional occupations. If they want to work more strategic gender needs by competing with the male, so that is very challenging and it requires a regressive environment. So professional environment increases women's agency, empowers them more strategic gender needs. So they should move out of their comfort zone. They should move out of this traditional employment activity. Then only they can compete, and then they can aim for strategic gender needs. If women enters to more dominated, male dominated workspaces, then competition for labor force will increase. So basically, previously neglected areas where women participation was very less can be generated by this opportunity. In another study, they carried out how female moves into more competitive area, how their decision making affects their decision making, and how they can impact productivity and how they can become independent by earning money. It was carried out in upper Gangetic plains of Uttarakhand and Uttar Pradesh. And this study basically tells about, female can earn, they can enhance their family income, they can position their family in a better term. And one more study at West Bengal, women found that they could lend their money to their husbands, and then they found very happy. This was carried out in Kolkata. And then in another study, women participation in the workforce reduced economic vulnerabilities and improved resilience during COVID-19 pandemic. Why there is a need for better environment for women? Participation in work outside the home should be focused for the women. More direct, this will directly impact women empowerment. However, the government should focus on long-term strategy that require to develop a better environment, better caring environment for the women. So public policy also should mandate these facilities in micro, small, medium enterprises and manufacturing facilities and many other business units. Also should focus on female labor force participation should increase, thereby overall employment and family income can also increase for them. In rural areas, public policy should help women by providing more access to resources and markets. This can help them to make a decision making. They can make to better market access. So the program Lakpati Didi, aiming at raising self-help group women annual income of 1 lakh. Lakpati Didi program will definitely pave the way for better employment opportunities for the women. We are going to discuss the next article, Reasonable Accommodation Disabilities Rights Act. What is this Reasonable Accommodations and Disability Rights Act we are going to discuss? Rights of a Person with Disability Act includes legal framework known as reasonable accommodation. Reasonable accommodation means making adjustments, such a kind of adjustment such that persons with disabilities are able to exercise their rights equally with others. Let us suppose say they goes to office and then they want to climb stairs. Person with disabilities may not climb stairs, hence they can be provided with lift facility. Lift facility will help them, and then it makes a accessible environment. However, so how this reasonable accommodation range from several things. This is just one example. Assistive technologies, job requirements, modifying workplace, it requires many other things. These public and private institutions can be exempted from this reasonable accommodation if they feel that they require disproportionate undue burden. That means they have to provide a huge amount of financial resources which they cannot afford. The Convention on Rights of Persons with Disabilities illustrates factors that can aid institutions, that helps institution in determining undue burden. What is the undue burden? What are all the factors that helps them? From financial standpoint of view, Indian institutions are still reluctant to bear the cost of compliance to such a anti-discriminatory legislation. When such institutions are made, they have to only provide these reasonable accommodation. They adopt several things, efficiency enhancing. They provide, like low cost equipments, utilitarian approaches. Just provide one ramp so that person with disability means there are different kind of people. So if you just provide one ramp means disabled person, those who cannot walk can only access this. Other kind of people may not access. So instead of that, they should follow welfare-based approach toward this person with disabilities. There are many other things informed, like there are prejudices toward PWDs because less productive, providing them is very always expensive. These are all the reasons for undue burden. This makes them to expedite rather than providing benefits to person with disabilities. Indian institutions directly, these activities compromise persons with disabilities and make them to cost benefit analysis. Suppose a person with disability, we need to provide reasonable accommodation means they will be subjected to a lot of cost benefit analysis, whether if I can provide such a costly equipment, whether such a productivity is there. Such a kind of analysis will be taken by public and private institutions. Hence, there is a need for setting legal standard to determine undue burden. So, in order to prevent their misuse, even though we provide all these things, the compliance should be followed. Compliance means the businesses, organizations, those such as private and public should follow, and this will thrive in environment and an ecosystem. There is a fully positive obligations to them and also create good benefits such as right to equality. Rights of a person always depend upon how accessible institutions are to them. The state should create a positive ecosystem. It encourages those institutions to accommodate PWDs in line with legal mandate. Can also generate investment in these things, can also generate business benefits for them. Constitution of India, under Constitution provides fundamental rights. Along with that, it provides directive principle of state policy. It provides a positive obligation on the state to create a positive environment so that they exercise the right to equality. Persons' rights directly depend on how accessible those institutions are to them. State should create such a positive ecosystem. So how such model can be created? After all, how state can develop a model. First, they can sensitize institutions that these requested reasonable accommodations for persons with disabilities can be procured at inexpensive prices. The second thing they can do is they can provide incentives, providing RAs, deductions, subsidies, or tax credits. This will help them to procure at lower cost, and then it helps to implement the rights of a person with disabilities. Third thing is sharing cost of reasonable accommodation. This is one such powerful model. With remaining institutions, those demonstrate actual hardship in providing reasonable accommodation because they face true shortfall in their revenues. Suppose say one organization has accommodated 2 lakh rupees, so they have to procure RAs, they need 5 lakh rupees. The shortfall is 3 lakh rupee. Such 3 lakh can be provided by government. This model not only redresses the disadvantages and stigma towards person with disabilities, this also increases a person with disabilities participation in institutional ecosystem and accommodates all their differences. The model can be practically implementable. The third model which we were talking about, this is practically implementable. Under Rights of Person with Disability Act, which we discussed, Section 86 highlights creation of National Fund for PWDs. This fund includes contribution from various banks and financial institutions in line with the judgment of Supreme Courts, High Courts, Interbank Associations. Bombay versus Mrs. Devta Consultancy Services. Rule 42 of this guidelines provides that this fund can be implemented objective of Rights of Person with Disability Act. However, despite all these provisions, National Fund remains underutilized. This is not being National Fund not being properly utilized. So, if we utilize this fund properly for rights of person with disability, under which we have discussed the third model, so this can definitely benefit a person with disabilities. It can provide them positive ecosystem, and then it can reduce stigma towards such a kind of people. So for that, several actions are needed. Whenever these RAs are requested, institutions should first check how much deficit they are incurring for procuring these reasonable accommodations. This should be taken after benefits by government, tax credits, and such incentives. Then they can submit a request to National Fund governing body that to compensate them for the shortfall. this shortfall, there is a famous provision, ADA, American with Disability Act. The governing body can also require them to state their request, their overall financial resource, access to external funding, lack of alternatives, and efficacy in RA market could be procured at less cost. This can be also be provided. This can eliminate any cost avoidance by institution. Upon receiving such a request, what national fund should do is they should find fact-finding inquiry. After fact-finding, the chief commissioner for person with disability assess the proportionality of requested RAs, and then he should make action towards sanctioning funds to make the shortfall. This safeguard will ensure proportionality analysis of RA welfare rather than utilitarian approach. So instead of people following utilitarian approach, only one approach, you just provide the ramp and then leave it. Instead of that, so person with different things. So person, those who cannot speak can be provided hearing aids. So different kind of thing. So it leads to welfare model rather than utilitarian approach. So it can lead to three objectives. What can one? First thing is this diminishes, reduces the reluctance of erring institution. Those who are falling behind to accommodate PWTs, it reduces. It basically all the organization come forward and then accommodate more PWTs, and then it will provide the employment opportunities for them, and then it can help them to grow in life also. Second thing, it includes positive market outcomes. Positive market outcomes. Every person has efficiency. Every person has potential to deliver the outcomes. So if such persons are included, so no matter they can contribute a lot, and then market also gains. There is separate business ecosystem can also be formed, and it also ensures a uniform legal threshold for undue burden, so that this undue burden clause cannot be implemented. This is the article. The third article today is a shock-proof state. Why shock-proof state is required? We're going to discuss this article in detail. On July 19, several service sectors such as supermarkets, banks, hospitals, airports faced a blackout after a common software solution found error. Basically, to say, Microsoft is an organization. They gain malware free protection software from CrowdStrike. They uploaded their system, which is known as Linux. This cloud is directly linked to Microsoft. So basically what this CrowdStrike will do is, whenever this Microsoft is attacked with any malware from outside, they protect from it. So they were updating one software called Linux. Then when updated, this formed a glitch, and then it affected Microsoft. Microsoft is linked to many other organizations, as we discussed: banks, hospitals, airports, governments, many other things, even football also included under this. All they face a lot of issues. So this issue came out as blue screen of death. As you might have aware, blue screen of death. The screen of Microsoft crashed, airport faced inordinate delays, government faced many issues, and healthcare sector, we don't know how much issue they have faced. By the time this issue happened, and then by the time it was repaired, so these again the news were formed through the communications were conveyed through the same systems. Hence the technological advancement are inevitable and desirable. Today the world is moving towards digital technology, but the responsibility to set up a safe and emergency protocol is often ignored. Emergency protocol, if one system fails means you should have alternate system. That is a very must. Otherwise, the entire system is going to collapse. Gaps. These gaps, highly excited in heavily technological dependent sectors, like global market to recent fashion industries. even in the local markets. For example, the error might have caused airline operator. Suppose a airplane, they want to issue boarding passes, but they might have issued in manual mode. Suppose say a healthcare industry person wants to go to cardiac arrest. Person who is going under cardiac arrest, he's making some payment and doing some other thing. All of a sudden, the entire network has gone. That means there is no other chance. So it requires, like there is a huge need for backup system. If anything happen goes, something should be there. These kind of issues are more often are cropping up in many other sectors. So people should realize this. These are part and parcel of process of business failure. The focus, the focus must be, instead of worrying on these failures, the focus must be providing network interconnectedness. The world should be interconnected. Life saving, the redundant system. If one system, this system fails, means alternate system should be there. Multi cloud services could have been one solution. Unfortunately, technological enterprises yet to develop such a redundancies in their pan social character across the world, and the impetus to adjust with this issues lies with the state government. State government should push for shock-proof state. The state government should push for, they should include in policies that they need redundancy. Redundant system is required. The government, through its Digital India push, require digital privacy and data sovereignty, and it also challenges income inequality, political marginalization communities through socially interconnected settings. For example, sorry, this electronic voting machines, people are already having a lot of mistrust. So government, electronic voting machines, behind them, the underlying software network, people are unable to understand. So it is the role of the government to provide alternative technology. So July 19, whatever this outage happened, this also provides a similar opportunity. They need to incorporate the redundancy. Redundant system is needed. Redundant system is very much required. From moving away, single person vendor policies. People, this should be linked in government institutions, private organization, even in informal economies, network level. Such a kind of network level happens means this should be included. The state was previously bound to provide a digital infrastructure. It is now the requirement of the state to provide a redundant system so that the infrastructure remain shock proof. Thank you very much for the discussion.